Good evening, I'm Andy.
And I'm Evan.
And together,
we're the Deplorable General.
Every week we like to bring you tactical tips and tricks, guns and gear review, some political commentary, and all kinds of stuff. So we normally do shout-outs. Because it's not sponsors, nobody pays us to do this, but we do shout-outs every single week usually where we talk about the companies and people that supported us, but we're going to skip that today in lieu of a special guest speaker that we should have calling in any moment here. So tonight, our guest speaker is a nationally acclaimed author. His pseudonym is Joe Nobody. He hides his actual identity because he's worked with several prominent companies, which we will not mention to respect his privacy. And in order to keep his anonymity, he goes by the name of Joe Nobody. He's written fiction and nonfiction. My favorite dystopian novel series is Holding Their Own. Highly, highly recommend the series Holding Their Own if you like books and if you like dystopian novels. But the book that we plan on talking about tonight with Joe is this book that Evan has right here. It's called The Home Schooled Shootist, Training to Fight with a Carbine. One of my favorite and most influential training books in my library is this book right here. It's practical, it's inexpensive, and it gives you a breakdown of how to train with a carbine and hold on a second here. Let's pan back to it here. And you can see, taking a look at this book, it's gotten its fair share of use. I have plenty of experience with carbines, but yet I've still read this book over and over again and implemented some of the tactics and the techniques in the book to improve my skill with a carbine. So I highly recommend this book. Joe, I talked on the phone with a couple days ago now, and he is very easy to talk to, very knowledgeable, and I think he's on the same page as a lot of us in the patriot movement. This book, The Home Schooled Shootist, he's got different things in it that I think really speak to me. So when we train, one of the things that we do or implement for our students is we have a way to measure a student's
shooting ability.
Right, before and after training. And that lets us know that we did our job. This book gives you a means to be able to track those things. And that's pretty cool because, again, the other thing is a lot of these days, the training stuff that's out there is like training you on how to shoot really fast, how to draw your gun and shoot really fast. But I guarantee you that 99% of the defensive shooting that happens in this country isn't a Wild West quick draw.
I never seen a stopwatch in a fight.
Ever. And that's the thing. So, if you can draw your weapon and you can put lead on target fast, that's great. It can be great, okay?
It's deliberate. That's the key word.
Right.
Is deliberate.
Yep. And
can I be deliberate to deliver that lethal shot? Notice I didn't say shots.
Yep.
Because when I draw my gun in a defensive situation, God forbid, it ain't going to be one shot.
No.
It's going to be multiple.
Absolutely.
Center mass is what I'm going for.
Yep.
If I don't get center mass, it depends on what's available. Hits count, people.
Yep.
You don't have to be, it's okay if you shoot a group this big on a 10-inch paper plate at 100 yards with your sidearm. That's perfect. Okay? Good for you. But here's the thing. Can you do that when the guy's 6 to 8 feet in front of you, right, coming at you with a machete?
Running around, exactly. That's the thing.
And then all of a sudden, okay, good. You got marksmanship fundamentals.
Right.
But there again, in your mind, can you pull that trigger?
Yep. And that's Joe and I will kind of go over some of the stuff when he calls, but that's one of the things that he created this book for was based on that everybody who reads this book has a basic foundation of how to use a carbine. You know, basic, and he stresses combat accuracy, which is a great concept of...
That's what I was just talking about.
Yep, exactly. Combat accuracy is exactly what Evan described. So it's basically saying that it doesn't matter if you are shooting a 1 or 2 inch group, you know, because I mean it's great if you can. That's awesome. But combat accuracy means you're accurate to this section right here of a person's body. You know, their chest, from their shoulders down to their belly.
The way I do it is from their neck to their nipples, and this is the magic triangle, fatal triangle. Anything in this area here, people, it's gonna be fatal.
Yep.
It may not kill him. It may not stop. Let me rephrase this. I don't like using kill, but it will incapacitate,
neutralize the
threat.
Yep. But what I've found, though, in a lot of the training material that's out there is a lack of real-world practicality. That there's a lot of stuff that is good for law enforcement. It's good for, you know, and it's always good to be more accurate. It's always good to be faster.
It doesn't matter. Listen, we don't have to be a Jerry Michalik on the range, guys. It's nice if you do a mag dump. It's a good thing to practice shooting in high stress situations fast. But I'm here to tell you, slow is smooth, smooth is fast.
Right.
I'd much rather have somebody deliberately draw their gun and draw a bead if they could with the front sight and take that shot, because you're going to hit that person.
Yeah, or so, just so that way we at least get a good 15-minute conversation. So just real quick, I'm going to read to you here the one paragraph from the introduction. And it says, this book is intended to provide intermediate to advanced concepts, tools, and techniques for anyone who wants to improve their fighting skills with a carbine. Shootist is primarily for individuals who wish to develop advanced capabilities in order to dominate practically any gunfight. It assumes the reader has prior training or experience and has mastered rudimentary skills such as how to clear a jammed weapon, basic shooting positions, and other fundamental knowledge. So, you know, again, this is a gun. This is a book that is designed for people who already have kind of a base level of knowledge. And the best way to get that knowledge is to get training, to get actual professional training. However, you can also train yourself. It's not quite as good as a professional training, but you can train yourself, and I know plenty of people that have done it. I know people who have learned guitar by picking it up and watching YouTube videos. But if you pay somebody to teach you guitar, usually you learn quicker and better and more proficient and more efficient. And the same thing with training tactically and with firearms. If you go to somebody to train you, you're going to get better training. I'm going to go ahead and give him a call here. There's a time. He's from Texas, so there's kind of a bit of a time difference. Hey, Joe. How's it going, man? Hey, we are currently live, and I just wanted to call and make sure that you were ready to go. Okay, sounds good. I'm going to throw you on speakerphone here, and we'll dive into this here. Okay, so again, we have Joe Nobody on the line here, and Joe, we spent the past 10 minutes or so just kind of giving a brief introduction to the book and to some of your other work and some of the concepts that that you talk about in some of your other books and things like that. And we just read the introduction, the first paragraph of the introduction to the Home Schooled Shootist. So first of all, I want to just welcome you on board the show. It's a great honor, especially for me, since I've been a fan of your work for quite a long time. So it's a great honor to have you on board, and we just want to say we really appreciate you taking the time to do this with us.
Thank you, Joe.
Well, it's my pleasure. I always enjoy talking to folks about preparing and interacting with readers and learning a few things myself every now and then.
There you go. Excellent. Well, can you? We talked on the phone the other day about why you wrote this book. Can you kind of give us a little breakdown of why you put this book together?
Sure. I, at various points in my career, have gotten involved with tactical firearms training, security services, firearms training, even military and law enforcement. And I've been an instructor at a couple of the more popular, commonly known, larger facilities throughout the U.S. And I started seeing a trend 15 years ago where tactical rifle classes, especially for civilians, they were wanting everybody to take a basic firearms course, and there was some logic to that. And I had folks coming up to me and saying, it's $3,000 to $5,000 by the time you can include tuition, travel, ammunition,
Yep.
The whole 9 yards. And I spent the first day going over basic stuff, rudimental drills and all of that, and firearm safety. And I was, it was a third over before I even got to shoot the gun, and I really didn't learn anything, beyond the basics.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wanted to write a book for people who wanted to train on their own, and I wanted the book to be more aligned with what the needs or my perceived needs of what a prepper would be, a survival situation that put down a new rule of law, how they could train to increase their efficiency very inexpensively at home on their own time, with drills that they didn't even need to go to the range for, or if they had some property or a place where they could go shoot, they could set up some stuff that would help them in what I perceive the situations that preppers would be in if something bad ever did happen.
Makes sense.
And that's why I wrote the book.
Outstanding. And, we talked about this over the phone, and I said in the introduction before we called you up here that that a lot of the tactical training in today's market, it's not that it's not useful, because I think that it is, but that I think a lot of it isn't practical. And what we had said here, and I think we talked about it on the phone too, was that and Evan made the comment that he's never seen a stopwatch in a gunfight. That in a situation where two people are facing off, the scenario of a Wild West quick draw is just not usually how most situations play out, and how it's good to be fast, and it's good to be fast and accurate, but it's better to be proficient, and if it takes half a second longer to be proficient, in most situations that's going to be acceptable. And if your skill level is at a higher level, then the speed obviously naturally it'll come. But it's just I don't think a lot of the training stuff that's out there is necessarily very practical for the average person. And I like, even in the book, how you talk about how, like, the loadout for a soldier, I think it was in this book, the loadout for a soldier is going to be different than the loadout for, say, a prepper. A soldier
Exactly.
is in war, like, they're in war. They're they're expecting and they're on the lookout for a fight, for a gunfight. Whereas somebody in a prepping situation or even in like a self-defense situation, you're hoping not to have a conflict. You're just preparing in case you do. So, even the amount of magazines that you carry is going to change drastically from a soldier or even a law enforcement scenario to, a civilian situation. So I think that, that's a huge point that needs to be made. And I think you nailed it.
Well, thank you. I look at a prepper and say, okay, if the worst occurs, if things go way off the cliff, grid down, no rule of law, you're at your bug out location or wherever, and you're trying to survive. I look at a prepper as one, you're probably going to be outnumbered if there's trouble. And two is you're probably going to be surprised.
Yeah.
If you're if you're a marauder, if you're a wolf, if you're the aggressor, well, then that doesn't apply. But if you're out working in the garden and, a group of ruffians decide that they're going to read your chicken coop or they want to kidnap your teenage daughter for whatever nefarious purposes, you're probably going to be outnumbered,
right?
And you're probably going to be surprised. And so there's training. The training that the book focuses on, the methods that the book focuses on, is designed for those. Some people call them fantasy scenarios. It's unproven, obviously, that's how things would go. But that's the worst case scenario that I can think of.
Yeah.
And I think I also do a pretty good job in there of pointing out, hey, if there's an M1 Abrams tank rolling up your street, you're done anyway. You're
right.
not
Exactly.
going to defeat
Exactly.
that level of force.
Yeah.
And, that's when you run.
Exactly. Hey, Joe, I'm Evan. It's a pleasure meeting you. This is my first time talking to you. Thank you so much for showing up on the show. But I wanted to say this. A good point that you just made is if an M1 Abrams tank came down the road, you're like you say, you're done. But one of the things I wanted to hit on is you were talking about being surprised. The firearms instructor in Texas who stopped the shooter coming out of the church with his AR, he was barefoot with a handful of rounds in a magazine of an AR.
Right.
And anybody that's ever been in a fight knows that surprise is the worst enemy. That's why ambushes have been effective for 2,000 years or more. And so the only way to overcome surprise is with skills and being able to control your fear.
Yep.
And confidence in your weapon helps with both of those.
Definitely.
To being surprised.
Definitely.
Yeah, and I love how you had I don't remember if it was this. I think it was this book where you talked about how in a situation like that you're still scared. Or maybe it was even in maybe it was Bishop talking about it. I don't recall, but you talked about you might be scared in a situation, but you're hiding behind your weapon, and that is your confidence, knowing that you're hiding behind your weapon. Your weapon provides you an edge or an advantage, and I think that again, it's just a perspective that I've never heard before, and I think it gives people a sense of urgency when it comes down to learning these skills and becoming proficient. Because if you're hiding behind something, if you're hiding behind a piece of cardboard, you're not going to be that confident. But if you're hiding behind a boulder, you're gonna be pretty.
Well, that's some bullet resistance there.
Right. Well, but the thing is though, is that if you're unskilled, you might not be confident hiding behind the butt of a rifle. But if you've taken the time to train, then it allows you to have that confidence that you can respond accordingly. So again, that's just something else.
Well, I had a student one time, and Joe can probably relate to this. I had a very elderly woman that fought off 3 burglars with a piece of 1x1 molding. And this is in Arkansas. Yeah, this is in Arkansas, Joe. And the next day, she's in the gun range where I'm teaching some security officers qualify. And they used to work for a former company that you used to work for, you're probably familiar with. So I'm not mentioning any names, but me and you are brothers, Joe. So we were in there training, and we were shooting 3x5 cards. She comes in, and the assistant manager of the gun range is training her on 870 12 gauge because that's what she wants. She wants a shotgun, this, that, and the other. And my Mossberg held more rounds, so she trained on my old 590 Mossberg. And before I knew it, she ran upstairs right before the gun shop closed. The range was still open for like another 45 minutes. She goes up there, she buys the Mossberg 500 Pursuiter with a collapsible AR stock, and runs downstairs with 250 rounds of Wolf buckshot and starts emptying the mag with what we trained her. And I'm like, God forbid anybody else decide to break in that house.
Right, yeah, she had confidence, right.
She had confidence,
Yeah, and rightfully so, she learned a skill.
I've always, and I take the heat for it, and probably will again, but I'll stand by it. And maybe folks out there are braver than I am. Maybe, they've got more intestinal fortitude. Anytime I've been shot at, and I've had my share, put it that way, I am trying to hide behind the gun. I'm like that fat cartoon character that tries to hide behind the little light bulb.
Yeah. They don't know what it's like until you get some rounds back at you.
Yeah, I teach people that, hey, whatever position you want, weaver, modified weaver, do isosceles, whatever position you want, get down behind the gun, pretend like there's lead flying your way, and you're trying to hide behind that gun and learn to shoot that weapon. If it's a rifle, it's a shotgun, it's a pistol, I don't care. If there's incoming, you're going to be scared, and your natural reaction is to hide. So learn to get your point aim, learn to get your weld, learn to get your sights in line, whatever, thinking that you're going to be scared. Because I've not met too many people, and I know some pretty big boys that have seen a lot of stuff, and to a man that will say, hell yeah, I'm scared.
Right.
Yeah.
Who wouldn't be?
Yeah. Joe, I was a rookie at the time, and I was working with an individual quite like yourself that got me into what you do. And we were hotel detectives at the time, and this is before 9/11. And I wound up with a bug out kit before that term was ever a term. And I had several different guns in the kit that was out, locked and loaded. And I have a client who I'm there to protect in a bathtub with a bulletproof vest over her and a mattress. And I'm in a hotel room, and I was there for about 3 hours and looking down the front sight of a 357 Magnum for about 2 hours in there. And realized that my phone was not on, and called my partner, and he said, well, they left 20 minutes ago, 2 hours and 20 minutes ago.
But you held it, right?
Yeah, I held it. Oh yeah, I held it.
Yeah, and Joe, we're coming down in the last couple minutes here. But I just wanted to ask, out of the book, do you have a favorite technique that there's some YouTube videos of a couple of them that I've seen. Do you have that you can think of offhand that is the most fun for you, or your favorite kind of go-to drill that you wrote about in the book?
I think the drill that if you have the right space, the right area to do it in, throwing the frisbees is a wonderful drill. And I've done it with a lot of trainees, a lot of folks wanting to improve their skills. And they think they can't do it. They think that it's impossible. They look at me amazed that I can hit that frisbee after throwing it. But it does so many things. It recreates the element of surprise, because unless you're very good, you're not really sure exactly where the frisbee's going and
Right.
you throw it. Two, it forces you to bring the weapon up, get your natural point of aim, align the sights, and do so under pressure.
Mm-hmm.
And you talk about timed exercises. Time is just a stress inducer.
Right.
We used to bet money. That was another stress inducer. Your harder wages. Whatever you can do on a drill, whatever you can do in training to recreate stress. It won't be the same stress as combat. It won't be much stress as somebody shooting at you. You'll have a leg up. You'll be ahead of the pack there.
Right.
Well,
if you train in this way.
Joe, one of
And
the things that I used to do at a stagnant range, because that's where we had to do a lot of our stuff, was at stagnant ranges, was I would shoot 3x5 cards, and if somebody missed off of 3x5 cards out on one of our teams, we just do push-ups, right? 25 push-ups right there.
Absolutely.
And then that would.
I think you and I have been to the same range.
Yeah, well, I've cut my teeth under guys like you, Joe.
And I'll say, go ahead. I'm sorry.
What we do, though, you and I did it for a paycheck, or for
Exactly.
a country, or for a college education, or what.
Exactly.
But the skills, being proficient, being able to hold your own in a gunfight.
Exactly.
You may not be able to run 5 miles and then be able to engage in a force-on-force, battle like a Marine or an infantryman.
Mm-hmm.
But holding your own in a gunfight with the average person that's out there, anybody can get those skills. The elderly lady you were talking about.
Yeah.
Us guys that are over the hill now and have bad knees.
I'm not over the hill, but I got bad knees, brother. Let me tell you.
So anybody can acquire these skills, and really it's just a matter of getting a book, or my book, or somebody else's book, a video, whatever you think's the right media for you. Go to a class if you can. They're great. Not being disparaging on classes.
Yeah.
But it can be done. You don't have to be, in the physical condition of a U.S. Navy SEAL or
Exactly.
a Delta Force operator.
I think we put too much emphasis on speed and ability, and that's good. But let's, we've both been there. Like I said, there's no stopwatch in a gunfight.
Yeah.
And there's no set position in a gunfight.
Yeah, every situation is going to be different.
And every situation is different. I found myself a few times shooting from my left shoulder. I had a situation like that. So, how many Rangers are going to let you lay down on, and shoot under the next stall. Good luck with that one.
And Joe, I don't want to give too much of the book away because I definitely highly recommend this book to.
I enjoyed your book, Joe.
But I will talk about this one just because it's on the front cover and we talked about it a little bit, and then we'll wrap things up here. But one of my favorites is the RC car with the balloons. And that's just I've never seen it. It's creative, it's fun for the person driving the car, it's fun for you. And I took one of these cheap paper Walmart targets and I took the body off of an RC car and I took Gorilla Glue and I glued this and I zip tied it too, and I glued this paper target stand to the RC car. So you can clamp paper targets to it or you could tape balloons to it, one or the other. And I tell you what, it's some of the most fun that you can have because, sometimes you want to take people out and they don't want to train formally, but that's a way that you can kind of covertly train. You can show somebody real, practical skills, and it's fun, and it's not like, you could take somebody who's just interested in going out and plinking and shooting guns, and you could take them and doing that, whereas somebody, that same person might be a little bit put off by the idea of, hey, we're prepping for something, or, so what is that, how did you come up with that technique? Is that something that you just
that was a trade secret?
You just saw an RC car?
I did that with the LR SWAT team. They were on the budget. They had their budget cut, and they needed to train their snipers. And I went down to Radio Shack, and this is me talking here, Joe. This wasn't even you reading the book. I just, I saw this done at one of the places that I was at, and
probably somebody that read Joe's book.
Yeah, probably somebody read Joe's book, and I took it out from that class there, and they cut the SWAT team's budget. I mean, big time.
So how did you come up with it, Joe? Is that something that somebody had showed you and you just ran with it, or is that something that you just were bored one day, or?
Well, myself and some instructors were hanging around. All been there. We're having the last cup of coffee afternoon. All the students are back, in their hotel rooms or left for the day or whatever. And one of my buddies had an RC car, and he was trying to run it out on the range. He brought it with him to show us, and we were all standing around and laughing. And I don't know if he didn't know how to operate it, or it was just a cheap one, or what it was. But anyway, we're at a fixed distance, 100-meter range, and he's running this thing around out on the ground, out on the open area, and he can't control it. And he starts getting mad, and he turns and looks at one of the guys and says, "Shoot that damn thing." I'll stick my hand up, right?
I love it. Oh.
And so he runs back to his truck and gets out an M4, and he starts trying to shoot this thing, and it's jerking and jinking and turning randomly and spinning in circles, and he can't hit it. He is trying desperately to hit this thing, and we're all laughing so hard we can't hardly even see. And he's just going everywhere, and this little thing's running left and running right, and he empties a whole magazine and never hits it. and somebody said, damn, that reminds me of a hobby we saw, at some place. I won't give too much away. We couldn't hit that guy either. and that just kind of the idea. I said, hey, we ought to put targets on that thing.
Yeah.
And then of course it was, well, I got $20 that says if I'm driving it, you can't hit it.
Nice. I like that.
Hey Joe, we got to cut it loose here, Bubba.
Yeah. Hey, I appreciate you coming on board here, and again, folks. This is Joe Nobody on the line with us here, author of many books, fiction and nonfiction. But tonight we've been talking about the Home Schooled Shootist, training to fight with a carbine. And again, Joe, it's been a great honor to talk with you. And I hope that maybe you'd be willing to come on the show again at some other point. And I tell you, I've since I read this book, I've scoured the internet for videos of people, implementing some of these techniques, and they're few and far between. So, I know you're busy with writing and the hurricane cleanup and stuff like that. But man, I would love if one day, heck, I would love it if we could get together with you and put some of these things on video. But I would love one day to see some of this stuff on video for people. I think that's kind of the way of the future for a lot of this training and stuff. So, you could maybe put something on, there's a website called Udemy where you can, charge people to sit down and watch these things. So that way it's not taken away from your book profit and stuff like that. But I would love one day to see some of this stuff on video. So I don't know.
I just love to train with you, Joe. Just get somebody back with the old school, that comes from our generation. Joe.
Oh, I'm old school, man. Yeah, there are a couple of YouTube videos out there that we made. I've had tons of people write me and send me pictures, and the one that we didn't get a chance to talk about that ends up always being the most fun is using the sprinklers.
Okay.
Why a bunch of sweaty, dirty guys don't want to get wet on a hot day, I don't know. But you think they were being... You think they were being sprayed with lava, or there was a Russian Zig gun cutting into them or something?
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds good.
But,
Go ahead.
yeah, let's do it again. I look forward to it. I appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely, Joe.
Absolutely, Joe. I appreciate you, and thank you for your service and everything you do, brother.
Absolutely. We'll be talking to you again soon.
Thank you all.
Outstanding. Well, hey, Joe, you take care, and hopefully we'll talk to you soon.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir.
Bye-bye.
All right, folks, we've been a little bit past our time here, but I think it was well worth it. We'd like to thank our buddy Robert for manning the computer and the camera for us. We're holding him a little bit late, but again, I think it's well worth it. Joe is one heck of a guy. Hopefully we have him on here again. Hopefully you guys learned something. When you get the chance, go on Amazon, pick up the Home Schooled Shootist. Also, his website is www.holdyourground.com and prepperpress.com. Hold Your Ground, HOLDYOURGROUND.com, and Prepper Presses, PREPPERPRESS.com. Check both of those websites out. Go on Amazon, pick up his stuff. You won't regret it. You have to train hard. You have to train smart. It's really important, and this is one of the best resources out there when it comes down to training with a carbine. So, hey, that's it, folks. I'm Andy.
I'm Evan.
Deplorable
General over and out.